Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all fantastic. It is time for another Friday Q&A, or, well, not tea and bickies, just a bit of tea and me talking about some stuff. If you have any questions for next week's video, please let me know in the comments section below. As usual, if you want to support the channel, there's links to music that I make with my friends, as well as a link to my Patreon on there. Thank you so much to all my patrons. You know what's coming next. So normally this time of the year is the NAMM show happening and there's loads of gear announcements. I know they are doing like a kind of virtual NAMM show thing. I've seen some pretty interesting product announcements, stuff that I'm excited about, stuff that I look at and I'm kind of flummoxed by, but I'm going to throw this question out to all of you. What are you the most excited about with new gear being released this year? What are some of your predictions for non-NAMM show gear that's going to be released over the year, and what are you similarly flummoxed by? Let me know in the comments, because I will probably do a video with my buddy Ryan over at Plagueside Studios in the next week or so, where we just kind of do our annual NAMM wrap, and it would be great to have some feedback and input from all of you when we're talking about that. But that's not what we're here for. We're here for me to answer your questions, right? So we'll get straight into it. What do I reckon of the new John Sykes single? I did go and check it out. I think somebody on the channel pointed it to me, or pointed me towards it. That's the better way to say it. A couple of days after it came out. And, you know, I love everything John Sykes touches. He has an amazing voice, he's a great writer, and he's a phenomenal guitar player. And, you know, I liked the song. It was cool to hear him actually make some new music. I thought the mix was a little bit rough, but what's cool about it is anytime anybody leaves a comment on my channel and tells me I use too much gain, I'm just going to post a link to that song, because that song is like gain on gain on gain with the guitars. I really liked the solo in it as well. It's so cool to hear, you know, John's signature bends and vibrato and just that absolutely bubbling tone that he has going on. So yeah, hopefully he will keep it up over the year and release a bunch of new music, because if we need anything at the moment, it's the kind of talent of somebody like John Sykes putting music out into the world for us all to enjoy. On, I guess, a vaguely related topic, because we're talking about John, you know, there's obviously the Whitesnake connection, and we're talking about rack gear a lot on the channel at the moment. What's the end game with all these rack mount videos that I'm doing? Am I just trying to artificially inflate prices so I can buy this stuff cheap and then flog it off? That would be one reason. But that's not the reason. The reason I'm doing it is, you know, when this stuff was popular, you didn't have YouTube. You didn't have easily accessible sound clips where you could go, hey, here's what a PCM 81 sounds like next to an Axe Effects. Here's what an IntelliFX sounds like next to an Eventide Eclipse. If you've got this much money to spend, what should you get? So it's really fun stuff from a personal perspective to try out all this classic gear firsthand, but I actually just want to put some decent sounding clips out there which compare it to other gear, so that people can make decisions for themselves and not just go onto online forums and, you know, whoever shouts the loudest there is correct or something like that. So the goal is, you know, you all know how I play by now and the sort of sounds I like to pull. What does this gear sound like through the rest of my rig? You can go back and check other clips out, and you know, basically, if it's something that you're interested in, either it will point you in the right direction to the unit that you should buy for your own use, or if it's something you think you're interested in and it actually turns out you hear it and you're not interested in it, then you've just saved yourself a whole bunch of heartache. That's kind of the point with those videos. And some of you also did notice that some of my MP1s were missing. That's because I've got a comparison video coming, so I took out my stock MP1 and I've got the 3-tube modded MP1 as well in their own standalone rack, so that I can just kind of haul it around and more easily integrate it. I think one project at some point this year is going to get that whole rack wired up and cabled into the rest of my setup, so I don't have to keep taking pieces out and things like that. But yeah, the MP1s are good. I do have an 88 MP2 on the way as well, so there's going to be a gigantic ADA shootout at some point, but I haven't tried that preamp pedal they've done. I might have to just go and buy one to do a comparison at some point as well. If you're interested in that, as always, let me know in the comments below. I feel like there was one other rack mount question. I have to look down here. And why is my handwriting so bad? That's something I always ask myself at this point of the video. Like, there's a sheet of paper under my camera, and I'm like, I just wrote that 5 minutes ago. Why can't I read my own handwriting? I should have been a doctor. Anyway, we can kind of get back to the whole rack thing in a second. Oh yeah, talking about the lexicons and things like that. Do I think there's anything out there at the moment that compares well to, say, the reverbs in the PCM81? I've actually got the PCM81 hooked up at the moment. This is the concert hall algorithm you're hearing. It's so absolutely wonderful. One option would be to grab something like a PolyFX Digit, which lets you load up reverb impulse responses. The Digit actually comes with a bunch of factory lexicon impulses, which I think sound really good. So again, I will have to do an A/B with the PCM81. I will probably record some impulses of the PCM81 reverb, and we can hear the actual unit next to some reverb IRs. I think that will be a really interesting experiment. Obviously, there's units like the Eventide Eclipse, which are still in production, which sound incredible if you just want a single rack space unit that does great reverbs. Everyone always talks about the pitch effects with the Eclipse, but I loved the reverbs in there as well. And then, of course, you've got units like the Axe-Fx, and I was asked about the Helix. I don't have a Helix to compare it to. Maybe I should borrow one just to do that kind of A/B comparison. But you know, in my humble opinion, and I'm a nobody, but I've been able to get close enough for rock and roll with the Axe-Fx reverbs compared to the lexicons, and you know, using Axe Edit is about 1,000 times easier than trying to program on the old PCM81. But the PCM81 does sound fantastic. I think it still sounds as good as anything else out there. The only difference being is there are now things out there which sound that good, in my opinion. If you disagree, feel free to let me know in the video. So yeah, I need to do that Ultimate ADA shootout. I need to do the PCM81, maybe versus the Axe-Fx, maybe versus the GFI Specular Tempest, because that's my favorite reverb in a pedal, and the Poly Digit with some reverb IRs. That would be a whole bunch of fun, I think. So yeah, that's what's going on in the rack space. What does an Axe-Fx 3 cost in Australia? Well, stuff costs more in Australia in general for several reasons. When you see the list price of a unit in the United States, it's in American dollars. When you see it listed in Australian markets, it's in Australian dollars, and that number might seem higher, but that's because in general, it's kind of in the best interest of the Australian economy to have our dollar, you know, at less than parity with the US dollar. It means we can export more stuff. A lot of Australia's relative wealth comes from export, so that's why stuff kind of costs more for us down here. The flip side is we have wonderful things like a really high standard of living and universal healthcare, and things that, given the current state of the world, I think are really showing their value just to society in general. That's a kind of topic for that's a topic for my lifestyle and you know, current events channel whenever I don't do that. So yeah, there's that, and also, you know, there are import duties, and then you have to think about a distributor in Australia is going to supply warranty services, so they have to pay their staff who service the units and things like that. When you kind of take all of that into account, it basically costs the same. So yeah, even though the number might seem higher, you have to take into account kind of the bigger context of stuff. And I am perfectly happy paying more money for stuff, which ultimately I don't need. I don't need any of this stuff. Sure, I come in and I play around with it and it brings me some joy, so it's not totally useless, but you know, I'm more than happy to pay some import duties if it means that in general, kind of the society that I'm living in is everyone's kind of taken care of. And yeah, I would encourage people out there, you know, take care of yourselves, especially at the moment. It's what we need. Anyway, moving on from the heavy philosophy and stuff like that, would I recommend any music theory books out there to people wanting to get into it? You know what? I would err on the side of go and support YouTube channels like 12 Tone, or you can go and watch Adam Neely's channel, which is amazing. Polyphonic is another kind of cool YouTube channel that I watch a lot, which kind of doesn't really do music theory. It's more like a music culture thing. But a lot of those really high production music channels have a lot of amazing information available pretty much for free. Lots of them have Patreon accounts that you can sign up to. The thing I like about that approach is obviously it's visual and you can hear examples, which is really, really nice. You don't just have to read about why Mozart or Rob Zombie is so good. You can hear examples straight away. So yeah, I would use the amazing resource that's the internet, or I would find a teacher, somebody who is well qualified to teach those things. On the topic of music, this has kind of come up a few times, people talking about not being able to get into new rock music. I don't think it's because there's not any new rock music being made that's worth listening to. There's a lot of factors around this, but the reality is like you're probably just getting old, and your tastes kind of tend to settle, and it is hard to get into new things. That's just the reality of things. There's nothing wrong with putting on your favorite Alice in Chains record or your favorite Led Zeppelin record and just being like, why is this so good? Why do I love it so much? That's cool. Don't let don't let a bunch of psychologists analyzing the human condition going, oh, well, actually the reason you do it is because human beings tend to have these tendencies once they get older. That's a fact of life. The fact that you love them is also a fact of life as well. Don't worry about it too much. Just kind of like what you like. It's a real shame we can't go and see live shows at the moment, because that's often where the magic happens. And I find a lot of new music that I get into is often because I've seen a band live and it just hits me in a different way that maybe a recording doesn't, or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of no surprise on one level. On the other hand, there's amazing tools like YouTube and Spotify, and you can, I think if you make an effort to really get into stuff and you just kind of judge it on its merits rather than judging it in a comparative sense, then you'll have a whole lot more fun trying to listen to new music. That kind of comparative thing, and the trying to value different things with music, I think can kind of poison the well just a little bit. And the same thing, if you're trying to get your kids into music, and especially the music you love, which is not an unusual thing, think about when you were 15 years old. If your mum or your dad came up to you and they were like, this is my favorite band, you need to like it, you're wrong for listening to all this, hair metal or whatever it is you like to listen to, or this G-grunge music. Just let kids be kids. They'll figure it out. They're not as dumb as they look sometimes, although I probably was as dumb as I looked when I was 15 years old. I always think with my dad, I was really lucky where, he loves the rock music that he grew up with, but he hated stuff like Linkin Park. And I used to skateboard. One of my friends had the first Linkin Park album, and he copied it onto a tape for me, and I would listen in secret on my headphones because I liked the way it sounded. I didn't want to, talk to him about it. But later on in life, I kind of got an appreciation of the stuff he liked as well. It's like, well, maybe he went through that phase as well, where he was listening to the stuff that was new and it was kind of dangerous, and that's why he was drawn to it. So yeah, I reckon one of the best ways to spoil music for children is to try and, encourage them a little bit too much or force it on them. So yeah, let's kind of move on through a few more little questions here. Some Pink Floyd tones for the Axe FX3 or FM3. I would just recommend go and get the Fremen presets, because he actually plays in a Pink Floyd tribute band, and I've got some of his presets, and his kind of like Gilmour pulse tones are incredible, absolutely incredible. So just go and get those, whatever they cost. They're kind of worth it, because I think they sound amazing if you like the Gilmour thing. And yeah, how do I handle my hair live? If you've been in lockdown, you've grown your hair, or you've grown your beard, or you've grown your pubes, whatever you do, make sure you kind of not only regularly groom and wash your hair. My hair does not look good at the moment. I've been swimming all week, and I'm like, should I shampoo my hair tonight? I'm going to swim tomorrow. That's probably a stupid thing. I always just put a little bit of conditioner in it. So my hair kind of looks rubbish in summer because it's always wet a couple of times a day. And then I'm putting conditioner on it and getting it greasy. But your diet is very important for your hair. If you want to have I guess, be well in your life, having good nutrition and things like that, especially for your hair, that's going to show through. And for live, I mean, I just kind of jump around and do aerobics playing live. All I would say is try not to open your mouth too much when you've got long hair, because your hair's going to get in there. It's going to try and go down your throat, and that's never comfortable when you're playing live. Also, don't chew gum when you play live when you've got long hair, because again, it's going to get stuck. It's going to get in the gum. You're going to be like this basically for the rest of the gig, going, I'm trying to play guitar and I got gum in my mouth. So yeah, that's a thing that happens. And one final question, and then one kind of, I'll tell you a little story to finish the video out. What do I think about our place on Earth and the universe? So that's a pretty heavy question. And if I had the answer to that one, you know, I would be a very, very wealthy man, because I could just go around telling people, hey, here's the answer to our place in the universe and things like that. And pay me $50, I'll tell you what it is, and then you'll live a happy life. So, you know, I'll kind of answer this in a roundabout way, because I'm sure a bunch of you know that my cat died during the week, which was pretty challenging, because at this time last week he was getting a little bit wobbly on his feet, and it's like, oh, maybe we should take him in for a checkup, and he went really downhill over the week. And on Monday we took him into the vet, and he was put to sleep, and it was actually a really lovely way for him to go, because we had him for like at least 15 years or something like that. So he was a fantastic cat. He like loved everybody. He had, you know, he had such a gentle just character and demeanor in general. Cats get a bad rep for just kind of being, you know, grumpy assholes, but he was just so friendly and wonderful. And thank you to everybody who wrote to me during the week. It really helped out a lot. And, you know, showing my wife that basically this cat was a rock star cat was kind of interesting. So yeah, he just kind of showed up one day. This is when I was still a teenager, and my sister named him because she was like, oh, there's this skanky old cat kind of hanging around. And, you know, he just, I guess it's like, you know, someone said in the comments that it's like an honor when a pet chooses you. And that was definitely an honor. And yeah, what a great, handsome, well-natured cat he was. You know, I'll always remember him because I also have that pillow printed out that, again, my sister's got me. So that's a lovely thing. But it kind of got me thinking, you know, we live in a world where there's this like cult of, you know, coating everything with this layer of positivism, I think. And a lot of the time when we value things like, you know, beauty and love and all the things that, you know, are really glorious parts of being alive, if you're lucky enough to experience them. But there's other experiences as a human being that are, I think, just necessary while we're on this earth. And, you know, death and grieving is definitely one of those things. And we tend to not celebrate it, or we tend to run away from it when it's such a fact of our existence. And I think it kind of speaks to the difference between experiences you can have as a human being and then the ability of language to explain those experiences and communicate them to other people. And I think something like grief or love or like true joy or really intense suffering, those experiences are all as valid as one another. And we're just kind of these little, you know, watery meat machines kind of flicking around on the surface of the earth. And we should seek out those experiences, whether they are painful experiences or whether they are experiences which are really joyful and satisfying. You know, I don't think that's why we're here, but we're here. And while we're here, we should embrace all of that. You know, it's like, what is it in the movie? I think it's Donnie Darko, where it's like, you know, you put your feelings on the line. There's love and there's fear. And he gets up, he's like, it's stupid. You can't reduce all of human experience to these two feelings. And I think that's definitely true. Like, human experience, there's a lot more to it than we just kind of talk about in general day-to-day life. And the more of that spectrum you can explore, the more human you become. And yeah. Anyway, that's the end of my Q&A, and it's you know, I don't want to say it's been a heavy week, but it's like any week where you kind of have to deal with some grief, and whether it's a pet or whether it's your best mate or whether it's your parent or your granddad or somebody on the other side of the world who you maybe only know through the internet or something like that. These experiences are, they're all very valid, and we should spend time exploring them. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all very soon.